Now we're going to do the plying portion of making the coils. See that pretty coil? And plying the coils is super simple. So we started with our 2 strands of yarn. We had our thick and thin single, and we had our lace weight. And again, you could use a commercial lace weight or a hand spun. You want to make sure your draw is at a medium draw, not too fast but not too slow, particularly if you're using hand spun, because it will unspin on the ply and end up breaking your yarn a lot. So we have adjusted the draw for a medium intake. When you are plying for an art yarn, for a boucle or for this coil plied yarn, you want to keep your lace weight strand taut, and you're sort of rolling the thick and thin strand onto it. I'm in a really good place to make a coil, so I'm going to kind of jump across to what I'm doing here and just show you a quick coil and explain it, but I'm going to come back and explain it again. So I'm going to lock the coil by adding, I've switched from having my lace weight strand taut to having my coil strand, my slub strand taut. I'm going to lock it, and by locking I mean I'm going to give it a little bit of extra twist, rolling that lace weight yarn over itself at the beginning. And now I'm going to just roll the lace weight yarn over the slub. Stop when I get to the end, pinch with my thumb, push it forward, and lock it in place again. The reason that I lock it in place again is because if I don't, then as I'm plying and the yarn is loosening up on itself, that little coil will just turn into basically a fancy boucle puff. It won't be a coil unless I lock it at the beginning and the end. So you always lock it. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to change my position from having my lace weight be taut to having my slub yarn be taut. I'm going to roll the lace weight yarn over itself, locking it. Now I'm going to hold back a little bit with my tension on my slub yarn and let the lace weight yarn kind of roll over it. Stop, pinch, push forward, and then lock into place again. So really the magic tricks to making this yarn are remembering to keep your lace weight yarn a little bit more taut, have it a little bit more tension on it than you do on your thick and thin, and just kind of rolling, if you can get in and see that a little bit, I'm sort of rolling the thick and thin yarn onto the tensioned lace weight yarn. Now you could just do this and produce a nice boucle yarn where you have this texture from having a thinner strand more tautly plied around a thicker strand. I like to do both with this particular method of plying a coil because I find that they complement each other greatly in the knitting. So if you have a little bit of boucle and then you have a coil and you're knitting them together in the yarn, it's not quite as dramatic as having a consistent strand of yarn and then having the coils come up in it. Those are nice too, especially for art pieces. But if you're going to spin a yarn where you want to have a dramatic difference between your coils and say like, you know, your DK weight yarn that you're spinning otherwise, I would really recommend that you learn the method of core spinning and making beehive coils, because that's a much more polished, finished look for having that dramatic difference between a standard, you know, consistent yarn and then the coils. This method, I think, makes a really nice textured knit with the boucle and some coils wrapped into it. So I've just done a couple of coils while I'm going along here talking, but now when we get to the next one, I'm going to slow down again and walk you through the steps of it. So just remembering to keep that lace weight strand taut and let this thick and thin yarn just sort of roll onto it. And here we come on a nice slub. So when you are getting to the slub, at the beginning of the slub, stop. Now your lace weight yarn is the one you're going to ply with the rolling method, and your slub yarn is the one you're going to hold tension on. And this, by locking, I mean just kind of going in the same place over and over again for a minute. Then let your lace weight yarn roll onto your slub. Stop, pinch it, pull it forward, push it forward, all the way to where you locked it, because it's going to loosen up a little bit when you've got the skein plied. And then lock again. Now switch to the lace weight being the tension yarn, and let this roll onto it. You're basically forming a movable Y with your yarn. This is your Y. One time you're using this side of the Y tensioned, and another time you're using this side of the Y tensioned. So here we are on another slub. Let's lock it, roll it on to the slub, stop, pinch, slide it forward all the way to the lock, lock again, and then go back to tensioning your lace weight.